it is so hard to believe that I am a Jewish mother. I take guilt. I don't give it. I feel so bad about everything. I can't believe it. I am so guilty. If my daughter would not do well on a test, it was my fault. I went out to an open that night. I should have been home helping her study. I should have done her report for her. It wasn't typed properly. She had misspelled something. She didn't use the word perfect on the computer. It was, anything I would take guilt over. And I finally learned to get rid of the guilt. It's not helping anybody. Girls, if anybody was like me, babysitters, you will need an infinite amount of babysitters in this business. And dealing with relatives that are stupider than you were. And I found one thing: if your relatives are not positive, don't leave your children with them. They're going to fill their heads with all this stuff that's not healthy. And also, girls, while you're building the business, forget about a clean house. Dust keeps. Alan would say, Shari, we're in a soap business, use some. This is how you turn on a vacuum. Hoover. We don't say Hoover. That's a negative product in our group. In any case, I would carry around all this guilt until finally I heard this story. And it's about a Jewish man, of course, you'll have to bear with it. And when I heard the story, I felt better, and I hope that it helps you out. And it's about a story about a man who had lived his life, and finally around midlife his kids were grown, and he had a midlife crisis, change, whatever. Had a heart attack, and he felt he had needed to make major changes in his life. His kids had grown up with much of the same values that he had had. He had worked his whole life and didn't have time for the family, and he had just saw his kids going down the same path, and he didn't want that. He didn't want that for them. And they never wrote, they never called, they never did anything. And finally he had decided that if his kids were going to visit him, it was because he was at a distance. So he had picked up and moved to Israel. Now, I'm not recommending anybody do that. But he had picked up and he had moved to Israel. Why did he do that? Because if they came to visit him, they would have to visit him. And they would have to stay for a week, and they would have to be with him because they wanted to be with him. And I thought, wow, this is such a positive story, because towards the end of the story he said, Rabbi, I will win. If I'm not going to win with my children, I will win with my grandchildren. And the point is that you will always be a parent. From the time those babies are born to the time that they close the casket on you, you will always be a parent. If you can't afford the skateboard this year because you have to buy some more tapes, if you can't afford to take your kids to Disney World because you can't do the air flight tickets, don't worry about it. There will always be time, and if you can't do it now, you'll do it later. Those kids will have a wonderful lifestyle. And the great thing about it is that we don't have to move to Israel to affect a positive atmosphere on our kids. We do it night by night, living room by living room. We have a positive effect on our kids. Our kids know where we're going. Our kids have a wonderful atmosphere to grow up in because we're around positive people. And that's the great thing. I found that women have the power of prayer when it comes to financial stability and prosperity. And I prayed for things I knew Alan could achieve. I played it smart. Today, we're debt-free, which is amazing. I can now answer my telephone without fear. And when the telephone rings, I know either it's a distributor or it's a charity calling for a donation instead of bill collector. It is such a blessing. It is so amazing. And we can now pay full tuition at our children's parochial school. And I found out one thing, that if you pay full tuition, they put you on the board of directors. It's so cool. And and not to have to grovel to a tuition committee. You know, we'll be able to pay more next year. Not to have to grovel for a break. And Bill always says, it's just that much more to go through life full fare. And it is so neat. It is so great. Just write the check, dear. It is so cool. Today, we're blessed with a full-time husband. My kids have a full-time dad. I know I didn't have that as a kid. Did you? Have a dad home from school when you got there? It is so neat to say, honey, can you drive the kids this morning? It is so great. The cards that we get, you guys did amazing. The cards. After we had gotten here, I had called home and the kids said that the truck, they had to send a truck out to the house. And it's so cool. They had to send a truck out to the house to bring us all our cards. Even my mother-in-law was wondering what we were doing. So that's really neat. I don't have to worry about my kids not respecting their dad, because they see the love and respect that the group pours out to us. It is so amazing. I don't have to build the edification. I mean, I do. You know, they see that what we have together is so amazing, and they want to be a part of it. So neat. We believe that we're nothing special, nothing that anybody else couldn't achieve. And if you really want to do it, you can do it. It's out there for you. And the best part of it all is that we have a running partner and we have someone to build with. And today we have a cute house we lovingly refer to as the money pit. And we have nice cars, and I have 4 fabulous kids. Of course, they're all brilliant and gorgeous. And we have 1 cat. Our kids, they've really suffered. They've suffered hard through all of this. They've been to Disney World 3 times last year. You know, they said, gee, can't we have a suite this time? They've really suffered hard. What do you mean when they don't have a suite? They've suffered because they've had children, they've had parents that really respect each other and love each other, and we're respected most of all. What's really neat is that we're respected by the people that we respect. So that's really great. And if I leave you with nothing else, I just want you to know that you can do it, that it's out there for you. It's not just a myth. Your leadership didn't hire all these people here to fake you out, as Alan always says. So all you have to do is want more for yourself. And I truly believe that there's more out there than a 30-year mortgage, and that you could do better and you should do better for yourself, and your kids and your family deserves more. And I believe that you should be further ahead than you are today. And your children deserve parents that aren't exhausted at nighttime, that can play with them during the day. And there's more out there than a 9-to-5 that you dislike, or you're not appreciated, or it's just not what you had wanted to do. You were meant for greatness. I really do believe that. We were all meant for greatness. And there's better things out there. And you wouldn't have a dream if you couldn't achieve it. And just go out there and do it and make your upline proud. With that, I'm going to bring back up Alan. You guys are going to love him. He's so neat. Here's Alan.
You're great. You can do it. You know, the big thing is never to doubt yourself. You know, Shari told you we had a lot of fears. She always talks about mine. Okay? I don't talk about her, so I won't. But she was afraid of everything. She said, if you're not doing it, I'm not going to do it. And you know how it is when you start arguing as a newlywed? You always get the last two words in. Yes, dear. You know, so many people, we watched them building the business, and in the beginning, you know what the big thing was for us? In the beginning, we got hooked on tapes. I mean, you ever meet these guys say, I don't need the hype, I don't need the psych up, just give me the meat and potatoes, give me the regular stuff. And man, oh man, I needed that hype. I needed something. I didn't know what we needed. But you know, I was born in New York City. And in New York City, you don't trust anything. Every street corner has another business, you know what I mean? And never legal, any of them that are legal. You know, you want to buy a wallet? How about a watch, you know? And this is where I grew up. You know, it was the type of neighborhood everybody wore sneakers so they could get home quick and lock the door. And you know, they used to ask, how far is the subway from here? That's the underground. And we said, we don't know. Nobody's made it back yet. And my mother is Russian-Hungarian descent, and my father is Polish. And we were raised with a European work ethic, you know, just get the job done. I was born and raised in New York City, and my folks, way before I was born, I think as children, their parents came through Ellis Island. And my father had become an automobile mechanic. And he worked for General Motors and built himself up into middle management. And we had side businesses. We used to repair automobiles. And he made me swear. He used to say to me, I started doing this at about age 9. I started palling around with him and doing this and doing that. So we knew our way around cars pretty much. And the reason I bring that up is he used to tell me things like, look, never knock another man's way of making money. And he used to say things like, Alan, do a good job. The brakes you fix today may save your life tomorrow when you're crossing the street. And he used to say these things, you know, and he taught us a lot of good things. So, you know, I tell people, you know, you have no idea of the impact that you have on your children. And you know, so many people look at the business and they say, you know, what if it doesn't work? And your children are watching you, the way you handle problems and things like that. And we just kept working till the job was done. I liked making money. I was always able to make money because of that career, and I was not a good student in school. And the reason I bring that up is because when we got into business, we really were different people. It was in there. The good stuff was in there. But what this business did for us was it brought all that out. It brought all that out, and we loved all that stuff. I started reading books besides chemistry manuals. You know, I was a D student, and around high school, I became an A student because my father wanted me to go to college. He said, look, I don't want you to end up like me. And 7 years later, I got my master's degree in university, and I had subgroupings. I used to do forensics and organ typing, tissue typing, all the blood and guts. I had a beard. I had long hair and a ponytail. I could pull it from the back. I was also thinner. And you know, during the day, I did a lot of laboratory work. At night, I worked in the morgue. And we had 15 drawers in the morgue, and I never talked to anybody. You might say I worked with a bunch of stiffs. Sometimes I show the plan, I think I still do. Never mind. Nobody present, of course. You know, so you overcome your fears, and people say, you know, what did you feel like your first time doing the plan and doing the business and all that? And Shari told you how we were contacted. My sponsor hadn't seen me in 9 years. We went to high school together, and he said, I found your phone number in my drawer. I says, how could you do that? I moved like 3 or 4 times. Okay. I called your mother. Okay, and he called me up. He was nervous. And he did need some laboratory work, and nothing the penicillin wouldn't cure. And And it's true, he was a farmer. He used to grow all sorts of things in his apartment. And I used to tell him he was crazy, but I always knew he was good in business. You know, every business he had in catering and this and that, and he was always making money, always had something going. And when he showed us, or tried to show us the plan, the first night, all he could show us was the rut system. Home to work to home, home to work to home to work to home. And we were ready. At this point in your life, don't you think you should have a little bit more? Didn't you think you should be a little further ahead? And that's how we felt. Here we were just getting married and things like this, and Shari told you how we met in the hospital. She used to work upstairs on give radiation therapy and bone scans and things like this, and you know, God forbid I'd get him when she was through. They'd drop him in a chute and they'd end up down my part. You know, I was so shy, it took me 3 months to ask her for a date. And her boss was my friend, and I used to ask her name is Judy. I used to say, Judy, get me on the bowling team. She says, it's all-girls bowling team. I says, listen, either I dress in drag or you know, we got to do something here, but I want to be on that team. She said, every other girl you met in our department, you ruined. You're not going to get with this one. So I told him I'd bring him up on sexual discrimination. And this is how bad I wanted to meet her. And what I'm trying to tell you is, when you want something bad enough, you'll do anything to get it. And that's how it was when I met Shari. And, you know, she used to tell us, look, I grew up in a house. When we have children, I'm not going back to work again. This is after we decided we're going to get married. And I was thinking, how am I going to replace her income? What are we going to do? You know, did you ever have a sleepless night, maybe as a teenager, and you said, gee, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What career am I going to pursue? When you go to work on Monday and they applaud for you like this for showing up, you know, ask them, say, who had my job before me? Be careful when you do that. Okay? I was told the guy before me had died. He caught something. All right? It's a job hazard. And, you know, right then and there, I was starting to think, gee, I want to bring home a paycheck, not a disease. You know? And I was looking for things. I didn't know I was looking, but I was looking. How many of you, when you saw this plan, you were looking for something? And people say to us all the time, Alan, it's not my cup of tea. And I say, you want a business or a tea bag? You know, when you're out there with a rhythm and you're getting a dream, you become better and better and better. And at your worst day off, even a brand new guy here, at your worst day in this business, you're better than 90% of the population that's not here. I chose chemistry because I didn't like being around people. I was too shy. I was the type of guy you would invite to a party, I'd stay near the door, wouldn't say anything, say hello, goodbye, and when you weren't looking, I'd leave. That's just how I was. People say, I can't believe that. Well, you didn't know us back then. People say, I don't want to change that much. Oh, come on, don't lie. You want the money just like we all did, okay? And, you'll get encountered with the same things that we were. But you see, as we were growing and we got sponsored into the business and I got positive, the people and the dreams became more important than our fears. We just knew we had to make a lot of phone calls. And somewhere around the 30th phone call, I didn't have fear anymore. I had anger. And you'll hear it from Bill when you get to talk with him later today and tomorrow and all that. But we had a low self-image, and but we wanted more. My resume, if I had to get a job for my resume, they'd call me a jinx. Do you know what a jinx is? Somebody always bad things happen to them, a little dark cloud follows them. Okay, if it's an accident waiting to happen, that's a jinx. My first chemistry job was in New York City, and they had a bankruptcy in New York City, and we were laid off. What does that mean here? Doesn't that mean you're fired? Okay, just checking. Okay, because I know some words are different, you know. Fired might mean you're burnt up or something. I moved upstate, and the laboratory I worked for burnt up. After about a year of working there, I built myself up, took some more courses, and it burnt. We went sailing. I came out, and they said, I got a call, Alan, read the paper. I go, what happened? The lab you worked for burnt down, so I was unemployed again. And this is on your resume. Imagine going for a job. They want to do a check on you. I worked for the hospital nearby that we used to do work for. And guess what? 2 years later, they went bankrupt. I mean, it's a big thing in the States, you know? It's a big occupation today. So I knew about job security. And so many people say, you don't understand, Alan, I have a career.